Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down, run them down.
Alrighty, hello there folks, how you doing? Today we're here talking about Netflix's The Confession Killer. Those of you who've been watching and paying attention, you know Mr. Capaldi's been on me to watch it, and so I got around to it and I'm watching it right now. So I basically have watched the first episode, so I'm going to go ahead and upload this little video here and just give my thoughts on the first episode. And I think I'm going to try to do an upload episode by episode and just see how my thoughts kind of go as I progress through this thing. Now I obviously know that Henry Lee Lucas confessed to a bunch of murders, and I do know vaguely from what I've been hearing about it that, you know, obviously a lot of those are in question. Haven't gotten to episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5 yet, so I haven't gotten to them digging into that too much. The first episode was basically just setting up, really, just setting up what was going on, you know, where Henry Lee Lucas came from, where the task force that was developed came from, developed kind of around him, and it developed around I believe it was the I-85 murders that with the sheriff in that area, Jim, last name is escaping me, but so they all put together this network, and they were eventually, I think, reached a point where they were just basically trying to throw anything they couldn't solve on Henry. And I believe Henry was, I'm not saying Henry is innocent. I'm not. I believe Henry was. I believe the original thing that they got Henry for, his girlfriend and her mother, and that stuff. I mean, I believe Henry probably did do something really stupid and killed his girlfriend in the heat of anger or whatever it might have been. And then obviously mom kind of figured it out, and then he ended up killing her, right? So, but you know, he couldn't, that wasn't enough to keep a lid on it. He was, you know, found out. And so I'm 100% on board. That was proper police work. He was, you know, the boyfriend, and obviously you would look at him. But some of the interesting things about this guy that are kind of trippy as I was watching the first episode here was, I understand why they ended up kind of deciding to want to try to pin so many crimes on him, and they wanted to see him as this prolific serial killer, because it is a little bit odd, even though he doesn't look like much. He's missing a lot of teeth. He's, you know, he just doesn't look much. He doesn't really look like much in terms of he's actually kind of, you know, small in stature. He's not like a big guy or strong or anything like that. But what he is he has a certain amount of intelligence, whether it's intelligence he learned in school, or whether it's just an innate ability he has, you know, that he's learned. I mean, the drawings that he makes are very interesting. I mean, and fairly detailed, and he shows an aptitude for that. So there's some part of him that has some level of sophistication, and that's why I think maybe a lot of these law enforcement agencies ended up telling themselves that this could be the guy, this could be the serial killer or whatever. But like I say, he seems like a very weak person. He's very much vice ridden as all get out. I mean, they talk about how he's constantly smoking and drinking coffee all day long when they're interviewing him and all those things. He's just constantly coffee and cigarettes on. I mean, just constantly. So that tells me that he's a man of, you know, who has vices, and he is somewhat a slave to those vices. And that's difficult when you're a serial killer. Because number one, having annoying bad habits, number one, makes you easier to track and eventually figure out. But it makes it harder for you to fly under the radar the way serial killers do. If you're out being drunken and disorderly and getting into conflicts and things like that, and bringing attention to yourself, you're going to get looked at eventually. So that's why I say this guy's just sloppy. He's not like most serial killers where they confine their carnage to their murders, but the rest of the time you wouldn't know, you wouldn't suspect. Whereas I think Henry Lee Lucas was just generally kind of a scary kind of dude, or he would be scary to certain people, certain kind of straight-laced kind of people, that he would be scary to them, as he is. He's just, like I said, it's like I said, it was tricky with me watching this first episode because I'm trying to decide, look, this guy, well, he does have some level of kind of sophistication. He's able to speak and express himself well. And like I said, the art that he was drawing, the drawings that he was making were interesting. And so I was like sitting there going, well, there may be some level of sophistication. But when I just saw that the guy was really a slave to his vices, that doesn't wash with being a serial killer, because when you have a lot of vices, drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be, cigarettes even, whatever it might be, when you have a bunch of vices like that, cigarettes are worse because obviously you throw a butt down at your crime scene and that's your DNA. Your saliva DNA and stuff gets on the cigarette, and then that will tag you. So it's like just that alone, that habit alone would be very difficult, and it would present a very serious problems for a serial killer. You see, they have to be very careful. And I've watched cases where there was guys who had committed a crime and knew the cops were after them and were actually carefully collecting their cigarette butts when they were on break at work and all that sort of stuff. Water bottles, they never ever threw away a water bottle in public. Just, various things like that. So it's a big deal, that cigarette butts are something that can identify you when you smoke the cigarettes, because like I said, your DNA gets on the butt and you throw that away. And once you throw that away, the cops are free to pick that up. So so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think this guy was very much vice ridden. It's hard for me to believe that he would have been able to pull off a very, very large amount of murders, because I just don't think he would be able to keep I don't think he would be able to be disciplined enough and to keep himself somewhat in check, to be able to pull it off. He just seems he's just a little too he doesn't strike me as being in control, I guess is what I'm getting at. Alright, so after watching episode 1 and knowing some kind of small little bits of what is to come, in the fact that, I know from Paul that the prosecutor in the next, or a lawyer in the next couple episodes is going to be one of the good prosecutors, one of the ones that, that Paul says that I'm going to applaud, similar to the way I do James Farron in the Mystery of the Pink Gun case. So that's interesting, and we'll see that when we get there. But if that's happening, then I know that a lot of these confessions got called into question, and I envision that that's going to be because a lot of law enforcement agencies came in, used this coordination, center, basically, where they were, coordinating this whole thing with Henry Lee Lucas and people talking to Henry Lee Lucas and whatever. Everybody's trying to get their unsolved cases solved, right? So I envision that it's a lot like this. They come in, they talk to Henry. Maybe Henry says, oh yeah, I killed her, and he says, oh, I stabbed her or something, right? And if that fits, then they sit down and start talking to him, and they start feeding him stuff, most likely. Or they start saying things in their conversation with him that I think he is sharp enough to pick up on. And I think he's telling them what they want to hear, and I think he's doing it because he likes the attention. Honestly. I think he feels that on the outside he's nothing, and he's living a miserable existence. But being this serial killer and talking like this or whatever, it makes him, he has coffee, cigarettes, all that kind of stuff that he wants and needs. He had, if you're watching in episode 1 there, he had pretty much a free run of the facility that he was being held at. He never had shackles on. He was able to use the soda machines and get like cans of soda, and things like that. I mean, he was a kind of a privileged prisoner, very privileged. So for him, I imagine he probably felt like his life was better on the inside, and he just wanted to continue to give them stuff so that his life stayed cushy. I mean, that very much looks plausible to me, considering, like I said, as it comes right off to me, he doesn't strike me as a serial killer type, because he just strikes me as the type of guy that just doesn't have near the level of self-control that it takes. Now, there is some interesting things that get brought up, like the fact that he knew the roads so well when they were driving around with him, and the fact that he knew the roads so well, and that even like little back roads and things off of little highways and stuff, that he seemed to know all that stuff really well. So that got me wondering if if he himself isn't really a serial killer, but maybe he hung around with one, and maybe he was maybe he hung out with that guy when he maybe did some of the murders, and that's how he knew maybe some of the facts that that led them to other bodies or whatever, that initially got them believing his story about the other 100 people he'd killed. Yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, very, very strange, and I think that maybe he might have been a pal with somebody who was actually a serial killer. And that may be a bit of how he's able to convince these officers as well, because after hanging out with that person, he's able to sufficiently talk the talk and walk the walk to convince these officers. On the other hand, it's also probably there's also a measure of probably these officers are desperate to solve some of these cold cases, and so they want it to be him, and they're willing to, they're hoping for it, and so in hoping for it, they're finding it, even if it's not really there, even if the confession isn't really from him. I don't know yet. We're going to probably get into that in the next few episodes, but I have this feeling that there's going to be a lot of them asking questions, yes or no questions, that convey a lot of information about what they feel happened in the asking. And so that gives him the opportunity to create the narrative that they're looking for to spit back at them. And like I said, I feel he's invested in that, because he feels like all the attention he's getting from this is better than his life would be on the outside. So he's willing to keep on riding the roller coaster as long as he can. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, I'm going to be moving into the next episodes. I'm going to try maybe to upload again tonight after I watch episode 2. And maybe do another upload to comment about that. So hopefully maybe, but if not, I'll upload that tomorrow, and I'll try to watch the rest of the episodes maybe tomorrow, and do an upload for each one, and then top it all off maybe at the end with a little live with Mr. Capaldi, since he's obviously was so keen for me to watch this, and so maybe we'll do that. So today I had the camera angle changed just a little bit, folks. I wanted to show off a little bit more of Linda's art here. So this is one of her spill art things here. You guys usually don't see it because I angle the camera down a little bit, but I angled it up a little bit just so you guys can see that today. And then obviously it's just like the one you're going to see right here. So you can see right here. That's, we got those when we were in Wisconsin. She brought those for us. So she has a little, if you guys go over and check out Linda K's channel, she's actually doing I think she has an actual channel she created for her spill art, where she shows how she does this spill art. So it's really cool stuff. I dig this one here, though. It's like the portal above my head, anyways. No, so anyways, just wanted to point those out. Thought those are, wanted to show everybody those, and go check out Linda's channel. She's actually doing, like I said, I think she has a channel specifically for the spill art, and so that's pretty cool stuff. So all right, as I said, look forward to me uploading after episode 2. This is just me after watching the very first episode, and I have it's really just an introduction. I didn't get a whole lot from it other than they're laying the tracks for what went down, and how, and kind of the rough story of Henry Lee Lucas. And then I'm sure we're going to get more dissection in the episodes to come. So, all right, that's where we're at. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. We'll see you.